सुभुजो दुर्धरो वाग्मी महेन्द्रो वसुदो वसुः नैकरूपो बृहद्रूपः शिपिविष्टः प्रकाशनः सुभुजो दुर्धरो वाग्मी सुभुजो दुर्धरो वाग्मी सुभुजो दुर्धरो वाग्मी महेन्द्रो वसुदो वसुः महेन्द्रो वसुदो वसुः महेन्द्रो वसुदो वसुः नैकरूपो बृहद्रूपः नैकरूपो बृहद्रूपः नैकरूपो बृहद्रूपः शिपिविष्टः प्रकाशनः शिपिविष्टः प्रकाशनः शिपिविष्टः प्रकाशनः सुभुजो दुर्धरो वाग्मी महेन्द्रो वसुदो वसुः नैकरूपो बृहद्रूपः शिपिविष्टः प्रकाशनः. In this shloka number 29, we have 10 names from 265 to 274. The 265th nama is Subhujah. For the purpose of Pushparchana, we say Om Subhujaya Namaha. Shankaracharya expresses his anubhavam as Shobhana Bhujaha Jagad Rakshakara Asya iti Subhujah. He is called Subhujah because he has beautiful and auspicious arms which protects the universe. The words Shobhana Bhuja also highlights that Vishnu's action performed through his arms are always beautiful, harmonious and auspicious. Other anubhavams that have been expressed include 1. God shoulders the burden of his devotees who express an undivided devotion, the Ananya Bhakti. For this, we give the quote from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, shloka 22. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. The second is, Lord Vishnu is the one who upholds dharma by protecting the noble. For this, we take the quote from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, shloka 8. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. We, in our tradition, attribute the value based on symbolism associated with the 4 hands of Lord Mahavishnu. They carry the conch, mace, wheel, the chakra and lotus. While conch symbolizes Pranava mantra, Om, the chakra refers to the time which the Bhagavan controls and uses it to both protect as well as destroy. The mace symbolizes valor and discipline, and most importantly, the lotus in the 4th hand symbolizes knowledge. For meditation, we take these values and develop the ability to surrender ourselves to the God, develop the feeling of being well protected by God, an expression of bhakti, and commit ourselves to the path of righteousness, the dharma, as our conscious effort. The 266th nama is Durdharah. For the purpose of Pushparchana, we say Om Durdharaya Namaha. The nama will be seen again in shloka number 76. This is another name with several interpretations. 1. One whose strength cannot be resisted, one who cannot be stopped. 2. One who is difficult to comprehend, one who is difficult to be concentrated upon, one who cannot be supported by anything or anyone else. Continuing on the previous nama, Given the majestic arms, the strength and power of God cannot be resisted. It is impossible to fight back or even stop the power of God. Shankaracharya expresses his anubhavam as Prithvivyadini loka dharakani anyaihi dharayatum ashakyani na kenachit dharayitum shakyah dukkena dhyana samaye mumukshubhihi hridaye dharayat. So there are two concepts that he emphasizes. All those that no one else can support, including this and the other worlds, are supported by him. 2. Even the yogis find it difficult to hold him in their thoughts. Our man is such that the vikshepa it goes through, the changes, the disturbances that it goes through, makes it difficult to hold him in our thoughts. Chinmayananda furthers the meaning of Acharya and extends it to define the meaning of comprehension. The vastness of God is such that it cannot be comprehended. Comprehension limits, and because God is limitless, he is beyond comprehension. For meditation, we focus on the last value. Comprehension is not possible, but realizing is possible. To realize, we must comprehend to a limited extent. Bhagavan needs to be comprehended till we realize God as the one unmanifested form that supports all the existence. The 267th Nama is Vagmi. For the purpose of Pushparchana, we say Om Vagmine Namaha. The value attributed on God in this Nama is one who has words which are praiseworthy, powerful and enlightening. For this we take the values of Bhagavad Gita, the words of Lord Krishna, which to date gives us the values to pursue in life. We also take the value from Valmiki Ramayana, in which Lord Ram is described as one who is intelligent with comforting words, as in his expressions are sweet and kind. He initiates conversations and speaks sweet and expresses utmost friendliness in his communication. Buddhiman, Madhura Bhashi, Purva Bhashi, Priyam Vadaha Rama is the way it is said in Valmiki Ramayana. An alternate Anubhavam is one from whom the Vedas originated, which is said in the Vedas itself. Shankaracharya shares his Anubhavam as Yataha Nisrita Brahmai Vak Tasmat Vagmi. Bhagavan is the source from which the divine speech, the Vak, emanated. Hence, he is referred to as Vagmi, an eloquent speaker. This implies that the person referred to as Vagmi is eloquent because their speech flows from the supreme source of knowledge and divinity, the Brahman. Acharya ties the power of speech to its ultimate spiritual origin. For meditation purposes, we should take the value of what is good speech from Valmiki Ramayana, taking the value from the instance in which Lord Ram describes Hanuman's speech. And because this is of supreme value, let us summarize it here. For details, you can refer to Kishkinda Kanda, which is the book 4, 3rd Sarga, as in the 3rd chapter, Shlokas 25 through Shloka 33. The description about the speech starts in Shloka 27. This teaching holds immense value for anyone aspiring to master the art of speech and communication. Lord Rama describes Hanuman's speech as flawless, explaining that only someone well versed in Rig Veda, Yajurveda or Samaveda could possibly speak with such precision and grace. Hanuman demonstrates a deep understanding of grammar, using it effectively to communicate comprehensively without a single word being unnecessary or out of place. Furthermore, his facial expressions, gestures, and tones are all in harmony, free from any faults. In tradition, we define the imperfections of speech or the fault in speech as 1. Undue stretching of words, 2. Speaking too quickly, causing the listener to miss the meaning, 3. Excessive nodding of the head while speaking, 4. Over-reliance on written text while reading or reciting, 5. Ignorance of meaning leading to incoherence, 6. Weak voice which fails to convey the meaning effectively. It is generally a practice to emphasize the don'ts before we say the do's. So, continuing on the don'ts, there are 12 don'ts for speech. They are considered 12 pitfalls to avoid in good communication. They are 1. Doubting while speaking, 2. Speaking in fear, 3. Shouting which is unpleasant, 4. Being unclear, making speech difficult to understand, 5. Nasality, producing distorted sound, speaking from the nose kind of a stuff, 6. Shrieking, which distracts the listener, 7. High-pitched speech, which lacks warmth, 8. Improper sound placement, creating awkward pronunciations, 9. Melodyless delivery, which sounds monotonous, 10. Rude expressions, which offend the listener, 11. Negatively rendering meanings, causing misunderstanding, 12. Chaotic delivery, such as jumping between unrelated topics. Some traditions speak of 14 don'ts. The two they include are specific considerations to Sanskrit language. One is avoidance of labio-velar, which is the sound like W, etc. This involves both the lip and the velum. Such sounds are considered a speech defect in Sanskrit where articulation is precisely defined. This is not applicable for languages which do use the labio-velar sounds. Second, avoidance of letters torn apart, meaning disjointed or improperly articulated speech. This disrupts the natural flow, clarity, and the beauty of words. But again, there are languages which emphasize on this, so this one is also very specific to Sanskrit language. Having discussed the don'ts, let us look into the 6 do's of good speech. Madhuryam, sweet-voiced, speak with a pleasant and melodious tone. Akshara Vyaktihi, syllables enunciated. Pronounce words and syllables clearly and distinctly. Padachedaha, proper word breaks. Maintain clarity by separating words correctly. Tvara, quickness. Maintain an appropriate pace, neither too slow nor too fast. Dhairyam, confidence. Speak with conviction and confidence. Laya Samanvitam, include rhythm and flow in your speech. These are poetically presented in the shloka. Madhuryamaksharavyaktihi padachedasthathastvara dhairyam layasamanvitam shadethe pathagagunaha. The art of speaking is more of science than art. It brings a beauty, hence it is an art, but it has so much of technicalities that it falls within the scientific realms. The Vedic Shiksha emphasizes that speech originates from 3 places. Urashi, the chest, the seat of strength and emotion. Shirasi, head, the center of intellect and clarity. Kantha, throat, the source of articulation and expression. True eloquence is born when these three areas align without resorting to superficial or meaningless speech like lip service. This forms the foundation of Vedic teachings on speech. Why this matters? Speech is not just a tool for communication. It reflects your thoughts, emotions, and character. Mastering the art of eloquence enhances your clarity of thought, builds stronger connections with others, improves your ability to inspire, lead, and achieve success in all aspects of life. Meditate on these values and integrate them into your daily interactions. Eloquence in speech is not merely a skill, it is a discipline and a way of life. Let Lord Vishnu's Nama as Vagmi and Hanuman's speech serve as an inspiration for all of us as we strive to perfect the art of communication. The 268th Nama is Mahendraha. For the purpose of Pushparchana, we say Om Mahendraya Namaha. Shankaracharya expresses his anubhavam as Maham Shwasaha Indraha iti Mahendraha, Ishvaranamapi Ishvaraha, which means the one whose strength or breathing, the symbolic vital energy, are great, comparable to Indra, is called Mahendra. He is the Supreme Lord even among all other gods. Ishvaranam api Ishvaraha. Alternately, based on the root idhi, which gives the value of Parama Aishwaryam, some attribute the value to one with great wealth. He pervades everything and hence he owns everything as well. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, shloka 22, it directly gives a reference to Indra. Vedanam samavedosmi devanam asmi vasavah indriyanam manaschasmi bhutanam asmi chetana. Here devanam asmi vasavah is the reference. Bhagavan says, among the devas I am Vasavah, as in Indra, giving a direct reference to this nama. For the meditation purposes, the core value is to visualize Lord Vishnu as the ruler of all realms, seated in majestic splendor, radiating infinite power and compassion. More importantly, reflect on his supreme authority and surrender your ego, aligning with the cosmic order he sustains. The 269th Nama is Vasudaha. For the purpose of Pushparchana, we say Om Vasudaya Namaha, the giver of wealth. The term Vasu has two meanings, wealth, which is Dhanam, and Sun, the Aditya. He is the one who manifests himself in the form of wealth. As the sun, he nurtures and nourishes the world. The Daha refers to the act of giving. It is always the Bhagavan who is the giver. Shankaracharya expresses his anubhavam as Vasu Dhanam Dadati iti Vasudaha and quotes from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Annado Vasudhanaha, which comes in the mantra Sayoyayam Purushaha Yaha Cha Asau Aditye Sa Ekah Sarvam Annam Chaya Evayam Purushe Yascha Savaditye Sa Ekah Annadaha Vasudhanaha. Brahman as both the giver Vasudhanaha of wealth and nourishment and consumer Annadaha of the offerings made to him. As Vasudaha, Brahman provides all forms of wealth to sustain creation and supports the evolution of the beings towards liberation. This teaching highlights the interconnectedness of material and spiritual sustenance. The value to meditate is to focus on how to live in harmony with the entire cosmos while aspiring for higher knowledge. The 270th Nama is Vasuhu. For the purpose of Pushparchana, we say Om Vasave Namaha. This Nama occurs thrice in Vishnu Sahasranama. We saw it in the 12th shloka, now in this 29th shloka, and will be seeing it again in shloka number 74. The Nama also comes as a prefix with several other names like Vasudaha that we just saw now, with Vasuretaha, Vasupradaha and Vasumanaha. As per the dictionary, the word Vasu means water, sweet, riches, ray of light, gem, etc. The value that we attributed on this Nama earlier in the 12th shloka was Vasati iti Vasuhu, one who dwells in all. As in, the soul which pervades everything is Bhagavan. For this Nama, Shankaracharya gives three anubhavams. The first one is Diyamanam tad vasvapi sa eva itiva vasuhu. The wealth or possessions, vasu, that are given or distributed to all beings ultimately originate from the Supreme Being, one who is the source of all wealth and abundance. The second one Acharya quotes is Achchadayati Atmaswarupam Mayaya Itiva Vasuhu. The Supreme Being Vasu covers or conceals his own essential nature through Maya, the illusion. He creates a perception of duality and multiplicity in the world with this Maya. Hence he is called Vasuhu. And the third interpretation Acharya gives is Antariksha eva vasati na anyatra asadharanena vasanena vayureva vasuhu. Vasu is interpreted here as Vayu, air. The element that pervades the atmosphere, which is Antariksha, and supports life. Air resides specifically in the intermediate space and is indispensable for existence. Value to reflect on meditation is to bring conscious awareness in us to Bhagavan as the giver of wealth, and also see that which we received as wealth in itself is the form of God. The one who conceals his true nature through Maya and strive to see beyond Maya. The object that you see has a base and develop the ability to see the base, which is pure existence, the Sad. Also to realize the God with every breathing we do and see the sustainer of life symbolized by Vayu, air, in the space, Antariksha. Bhagavan is the subtle essence that supports all existence, is the core value that we develop by meditating on this Nama Vasuhu. The 271st Nama is Naika Rupaha. For the purpose of Pushparchana, we say Om Naika Rupaya Namaha. The root Naikaha comes as a Nama in shloka number 78. The second line of the shloka denotes Vishwarupa. For the meditation purposes, we could chant the entire shloka with the realization that what prevents us from seeing this cosmos as the God is because I become the seer and the cosmos becomes the cosmos minus I, even if one can see it collectively. Vishwarupa is the cosmos including I. It is the removal of the Ahambhava which separates you from the world, which allows you to see the Vishwarupa. The Ahambhava can only be removed through bhakti. For this Nama, Chinmayananda points out to the beautiful shloka from devotional compositions. Jalam Vishnu Sthalam Vishnuhu Vishnurakasamuchyate Sthavaram Jangamam Vishnuhu Sarvam Vishnumayam Jagat. A very beautiful shloka. The value for meditation is to contemplate on the direct meaning of this nama. Naika Rupa means one with several forms. Every form that you encounter is an expression of God. Every form that you can visualize is God. Every form that is in its potential state is also God. Shankaracharya establishes this in his Anubhavam as Ekam Rupam Asya Na Vidyata and quotes from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Indro Mayabhihi Puru Rupa Iyate, asserting from Shruti, and quotes Jyotimshi Vishnuhu from Vishnu Puran as a reference from Smriti. The 272nd Nama is Brihad Rupaha. For the purpose of Pushparchana, we say Om Brihad Rupaya Namaha. The root Brihad comes as a nama in shloka number 90. Brihad Rupam means one that is big. Shankaracharya gives the Anubhavam of Varaha Avatar, etc., expresses the vastness and the greatness of Bhagavan. Brihan Mahad Varahadi Rupam Asya. The vastness is beyond comprehension. Sri Chinmayananda points out the mantra from Purusha Suktam. Atyatishthadashangulam. Ati, which is beyond, exceeding. Atishtatha, stood, extended, transcended. Dasha, 10. Angulam, finger's breadth. A quantity or a unit of measure. Dasha Angulam is a metaphor for the immeasurability of an object. One who cannot be contained is the basic essence. The concept of transcendence implying that Supreme Being is always beyond any form of dimension that creation can define. The phrase in the mantra highlights the immeasurable, infinite nature of Purusha. Though he envelops the entire creation, he is not confined by it and stands beyond it. The mention of 10 fingers breadth symbolizes transcendence, completeness, and the unity of the finite with the infinite. This phrase gives the seekers the value to meditate on Purusha as the ultimate reality, realizing its presence both within and beyond the universe. More we see the world in its large form, the more we can realize Him is the value that we get out of meditating on this Nama. The 273rd Nama is Shipi Vishtaha. For the purpose of Pushparchana, we say Om Shipi Vishtaya Namaha. The word Shipi has two meanings, race and animals. Literal meaning are flesh, animals or sacrificial offerings, pashus. In the Vedic context, it can also refer to rays of light or vital energies, symbolizing the energies associated with life and creation. Shankaracharya gives his Anubhavam as Shipayaha Pashavaha Teshu Vishati Pratitishthati Yajna Rupena. Lord Vishnu as Shipivishta is the one who enters into and resides within all beings, the Pashus, and elements of creation. He is the essence of sacrifice, yajna, that sustains the world. The second interpretation that Acharya gives is Shipayaha Rashma Teshu Nivishtaha. Lord Vishnu as Shipivishta is the one who resides in the rays of light, or energy that pervades the universe. These rays symbolize the vital forces of life and the sustaining energy of creation. The first interpretation highlights Lord Vishnu's inseparable connection with yajna sacrifice. In support, Acharya quotes Yajno vai Vishnuhu from Taittiriya Samhita. For the second one, Acharya has given some shloka which is not really seen anywhere else. So what we have done in the tradition is gone into Mahabharata, where in Shanti Parva there is a shloka. Shipivishta iti yacha asya pitam romam cha yad bhavet is the way it goes. Basically, in Mahabharata, it is said that Bhagavan pervades everything. This includes all living and non-living things, gross, subtle or causal as in body, thought or in potential form. Hence, he is known as Shipivishtaha. For the meditation, we should contemplate on everything that we can conceptualize and develop the ability to see the pervaded God in it, or remind ourselves that God pervades that as well. Pervasiveness should not be seen just as being totally pervaded, but as something that is antarbahishchatat sarvam vyapya, means it is pervaded inside out as well as in the surface, as in thoroughly and throughout. The 274th nama is Prakashanah. For the purpose of Pushparchana, we say Om Prakashanaya Namaha. There are two ways value is attributed to Bhagavan in this nama. One, who shows himself to his devotees. Two, one who illumines everything. Taking this from the point of view of Bhagavad Gita chapter 11, in which he not only displayed but also enabled the devotee to see the Vishwarupa, Bhagavan is called Prakashanah, as in one who shows himself to his devotees. Shankaracharya gives his anubhavam as Sarvesham Prakashana Shilatvat Prakashanah. All, everything, everyone is Sarvesham. Prakashanah is illumination, revealing, or making something known or manifesting. Shilatvat, due to the nature or characteristic of being so. Prakashanah, the illuminator, the one who reveals or manifests everything. Prakashana refers to the divine nature of Lord Vishnu or Brahman as the ultimate illuminator who reveals, sustains and makes everything in existence to manifest. It highlights Lord Vishnu's dual role as the physical light that makes the universe visible and perceptible to us, as the spiritual light that dispels ignorance and guides beings from the path of ignorance towards self-realization. For the purpose of meditation, we contemplate on the value that everything that we know, the ahambhava, the things that I know, is actually given to us because it is he who pervades the light to see it. Not just the light, but the Swayam Jyoti that he is. Prakashanah.